Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're doing our Fantasy Football Awards for the 2021 season. End off our season with the award show is always a fun way to do it. We're going to take a couple month hiatus after this show. Not much happens in January and February in fantasy football, so I don't think we can really add much to the conversation over those couple months. We'll come back right around NFL free agency time, which starts in the middle of March. So that's a great time of the year, seeing where everyone's going to go and what kind of fantasy impact we think it'll make. So we'll be back around there. But in the meantime, keep going to Instagram, our Instagram page. That'll be our main source. I'll still be putting some updates out there a couple times a week. Instagram.com/fantasyfootballprofit. Who knows what? Some random list of stuff that I find interesting. Maybe some picks for next year. So go follow us on there, and you'll keep getting a couple things a week on our Instagram page. But awards, here we go, Jeff. Let's just start off. We're going to start off with the best. We're going to start off with MVP. MVP. Who's your
MVP?
Pick? There's only two options. So
yeah, there's two. I'm going with the running back. I'm going with Jonathan Taylor. I could argue either one, but Jonathan Taylor was amazing. He was the only guy that was up there in production as far as like Derrick Henry when he was really going off before the injury. He finished so far ahead of number 2, who was Eckler. I was just blown away. And he was, even though he didn't maybe have that giant punch at the end, he was consistent throughout, and he was obviously a huge reason why so many people won their leagues this year. So Jonathan Taylor, he was unbelievable.
He was. He had a stretch there where you're not going to lose if you had Jonathan Taylor, or in the case of our league, if you have Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp, the champion in our league had both.
And yeah, I mean, he traded for Eckler, didn't he?
Yeah. God, Mark, what was Mark doing? Mark just
he had Devo too, I think. Yeah, it was wild.
You can't get that's insane. That's insane. Yeah. That was a good team. Good job, John. If you're listening, good job. But I'm going with Cooper Kupp. I'm gonna switch it up. So
I was gonna say, which way are we gonna go?
So Cooper Kupp will be my pick. So Taylor did have a big advantage, but if you go like half PPR, Cooper Kupp's advantage. If I go PPR. Cooper Kupp's advantage over second place, which was Devontae Adams actually in PPR. I think Debo was number 2 in standard, but his advantage over Devontae Adams in PPR was 4.4 points per game difference over Devontae Adams. Taylor's then difference is, so essentially Jonathan Taylor, standard league MVP, Cooper Kupp, PPR league MVP. If you want to look at it that way, that's kind of how it played out in reality. Is
absolutely fine with that.
Yeah, that's really, if you look at the numbers, Jonathan Taylor's only 0.5 points per game ahead of Eckler in PPR, but obviously he has a 2.5 point advantage in standard. And then Cooper Kupp, who had the 4 point whatever over Devontae Adams in PPR, only has a 0.9 advantage over Debo in standard. So it's a pretty clear difference. Jonathan Taylor's the standard league MVP by far. Cooper Kupp is the PPR league MVP by far. It just is. So I think those are the picks. No one else can tell you. I mean, no, those are the MVPs. They're the MVPs. It's pretty straightforward. I don't think we have to get into it. It's just amazing what they did. Cooper Kupp almost set records for receptions and yardage. He came very close. Didn't get it, but he was extremely close. Just an amazing year. So, yeah, easily. If you got those guys, you're having a good season. So you probably won some titles. But, all right, let's go to the bad side here. Our bust of the year. I wonder if we're gonna have the same one here or not. I'm not. We'll find out.
I feel like we should, because unless you completely forgot about him, because I cannot get over how giant of a cliff he just fell off of, and that's Allen Robinson.
100%,
we talked about it before, but oh my gosh, I mean, I truly cannot figure out what to associate the giant, goose egg that he laid this year. I can't imagine that is him. Unless there was some injury we didn't know about, it has to be, I don't know. Everything has to collide and just be off for you for a year in order for this to happen, where it's not injury, it's not anything else. The team wasn't very good. Yeah, you had a young quarterback. But we've seen a lot of number one wide receivers be able to overcome that to at least be a decent wide receiver he wasn't even in the game plans, to the fact that like Mooney was like overcame him for number one. Anyway, Allen Robinson, I cannot wrap my head around it. That's how big of a bust he was this year.
100%. He's the pick. He's the bust of the year. It's not even close. I do not know how to talk about it or what happened. I mean, he was a borderline top 10 wide receiver who beat like at the beginning of the year, who just did absolutely nothing. And he was out there for most of the year. He disappeared. It makes no sense. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what to do with him next year. Cause I feel like who knows? I don't know. I don't know. It's such a crazy thing. Cause I don't feel like it was talent fell off the cliff. Like he didn't just lose all the talent he had. This guy was good. What happened? New coach next year. We'll see if that changes things. But Allen Robinson, I mean, he's the pick by far. He blew everyone away in this category. Congratulations, Allen. You won by a lot. But
yeah, I know. And
I'll throw some other. I talked about. I had made a post on Instagram of the bust, so I'll just throw out some names.
Oh, sure.
Allen Robinson wins, but the other names I threw out there, Mike Davis, 100%. We were not on board. If you listen to us, you didn't draft him, but a lot of people did, and he was a big time bust.
Yeah.
I put out Myles Gaskin because Myles Gaskin was a bust. I'm telling you, he was a bust. Some people came back at me, but this guy was so inconsistent. You never knew when to use him. And at the end of the year, he honestly just disappeared. He ended up RB 26, and that's with a lot of injuries to get him to 226. So Myles Gaskin, I'm telling you, the guy was a bust. Kenny Galladay.
100%. But he's a huge one. Yeah.
100. Saquon, some was injury, but you know what? Even when he wasn't hurt, nothing was happening. He wasn't playing well. Russell Wilson, you know what? He played better at the end of the year, but if you had Russell Wilson as your quarterback, I doubt you made the playoffs. So it just didn't happen. Chase Claypool, I feel like was kind of a bust on the year. Didn't really. He ended up a wide receiver 37.
I know. I give him a pass because we know why.
Yeah.
I mean, Deontay Johnson still, got it done, but the truth is Roethlisberger.
He just doesn't have it anymore. But he's in the playoffs. Doesn't have it. So
he made. I mean, I do feel good for him. Like you're going to get sent off. It would have been a terrible way to go if that game ended in a tie and he didn't get it.
But yeah, Robbie Anderson, another big
that one is almost laughable how bad that one went for him too.
And then Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, finally. I was gonna say
wide receiver 25.
When is it gonna finally come out? This was a huge discussion going into the year, and everyone hated on me for saying Terry McLaurin was gonna be a bust.
Wide receiver 25. That's not good.
No, he was there. Everyone was saying he's gonna be a top 10 guy. And I was no, he is absolutely not. And I don't think he's going to be in the top 20.
And he did not.
He was right.
Yep. There you go. So Terry McLaurin. You could throw Amari Cooper out there. He finished back into the 20s in a lot of that. He had a really great game at the start, but maybe not. But yeah. All right, here we go. Let's go to breakouts. Breakout player of the year. Who's your breakout?
There's a lot of guys that you could go with. I'm going to go with the young gun that was setting. I mean, I think he set a rookie record, but Jamar Chase, everyone thought he could be good, but he exceeded every expectation to the fact where I don't remember a young wide receiver. I mean, Justin Jefferson, other than that one, I guess there is actually a lot. I could keep naming it off, but quite as good as this because he was unbelievable and he had a bunch of talent around him. So he didn't really need to produce, and he just found a way to get in the end zone. And not only can you be a possession guy, but you can stretch the field and go deep. He's a playmaker. He just lived up to the hype, and he ended up as the third overall wide receiver. So that breakout is, sufficiently done. I that's why I chose him.
Yeah, so he was awesome, like better than expected. And part of it, remember the preseason, guy can't catch the ball. You remember that that storyline? I actually downgraded him a little bit. I was like, hey man, I don't know what's going on, and I just didn't want to take that chance, and I was wrong. Jamar Chase was awesome, so awesome, just great season. I didn't go Jamar Chase. I went another receiver, guy who finished one spot ahead of him, Deebo Samuel. So Deebo, I mean. It was Brandon Ayuk was the talk. Brandon Ayuk should be on a bust list. He's actually so forgotten that I don't even think about Brandon Ayuk for a bust anymore. He should have been on that list I posted. Deebo Samuel became the guy. and ended up second in standard scoring on the year, and did it in different ways, not just receiving, but obviously the running, getting those touchdowns. That's why it's we are a little hesitant for next year, because I'd like more volume, but the guy was so good and it was unexpected. I didn't expect it, and it just kept happening. No matter what, just kept going. It kept getting these touchdowns, kept running the ball in. And ended up being an awesome year for Deebo Samuel. So I'm going to put him as my breakout. Just not sure where he's going to be next year. He's going to be good, but I'd like to see him get more volume. I hear people talking, oh, you should have running back eligibility. But why do you want him to have running back eligibility? What would that do for you guys? So people are clamoring for that. You want it the way you have it.
It's becoming more and more difficult to get running backs, right? So if you can just load your whole roster.
But he the actual numbers where he had like 7% of his snaps at running back. He's not getting running back eligibility. So, but Deebo, it'd be my breakout for that pick.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Surprise of the year. Who's your surprise?
This one really did surprise me. I'm still blown away by it when I look at his numbers, but James Conner, I did not think that he was going to be, I wasn't even sure if he was going to be relevant, to be quite honest. I wasn't sure how healthy he was. I wasn't sure what kind of, position or piece of the pie he was going to have in the backfield at Arizona. And he comes out and he is the 4th overall running back this year. I mean, first of all, he's a feel-good story. I mean, good for him, man. I don't know. I feel good about it. And he just surprised the heck out of me. I got to give him a ton of props.
He would be, he's on my short list. He's not my pick, but 100% on my short list. And he was, completely surprising. I didn't expect any of that at all, but it was great to see. Just touchdown. It started with the touchdowns early on, right? He was just getting all the touchdowns. Then it became just more. But great year for James Conner. Completely unexpected. Didn't see it coming.
I think he had 18 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's crazy. What he ended up as top? Is he top 5? Where did he end up?
4th. Fourth running back.
Man, just a great year.
The only 3 people that outshined him were Jonathan Taylor, obviously, Austin Eckler, and Joe Mixon, who had all of them had banner years.
Yeah, just a great year for James Conner. So I went with a different pick here, though. I went with Cordero Patterson. He came out of nowhere. Didn't expect Cordero Patterson at 30 years old. He's always been a gadget player, and all of a sudden he was actually getting real work, and he ends up becoming I think he's a top 10 running back on the year. So Cordero Patterson, didn't expect any of that, didn't see it coming, and he had a really good season. It's completely, probably there's a couple like waiver wire player pickups you'd call this year. Cordero Patterson's probably the top one. Amon-Ra St. Brown might be there as well. One of those 2 guys would be like some of the best waiver wire pickups, but Cordero Patterson for sure. So he's my pick for surprise of the year with Cordero.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument to be made with that one. No one thought he was going to actually be running back. No one thought that. I mean, he's been around forever. So
yeah, didn't see it. But
another feel good one.
One last award. This isn't a good award for people, but it's not really an award. I don't know what it is. It's the player that you don't believe in for 2022, who may have had a really good season in 2021 that we're just like, don't see it happening. Who's your pick?
Well, you already talked about him. It's Deebo.
Is it? Okay.
100% I don't believe in him. And I don't believe him in the way that I don't think he's going to be in the top 10. I would never draft him that way. I know he's going to be by a lot of people, but I've mentioned this before, I think on a couple of podcasts before, but how can you recreate this year? I mean, it really was a magical season for him. Everything worked. And if you take away some of the snaps because, you'll have the running backs back, you won't have as much injuries. Kittle is back a full season. He is, Ayuk is still there, obviously. Yeah, he might be the number 1, but I also don't even know how much they're going to pass because it's probably going to be Trey Lance. I just hate everything that is going to be happening around him. And sure, they'll try to figure out ways to get the ball in his hands, but his ability to get in the end zone this year was otherworldly. And I can't imagine him being able to recreate that. So, when I say, is he a good player? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy that he did so well, but the success he had this year being number 2 wide receiver overall, I don't think he is going to come anywhere near that ever again. I think that was just crazy what was able to occur. So I think he's more of like a wide receiver 15 next year. And I know people are going to be drafting him in the top 5.
You know, I don't know what to think about Debo. I do know though, when you think about it, like I just cannot see myself wanting Debo as my wide receiver 1. There wasn't enough volume at the receiver position, I feel like. And just the way the touchdowns happen running the ball just feel like you can't do it again, right? And what happens if they have a Raheem Mostert back and they have Elijah Mitchell out there and maybe Trey Sermon gets a little more work and Jeff Wilson's there the whole year? Do they use the actual running backs more? And Debo is not getting that work and he just becomes a really good receiver, a good receiver too. I don't know if I want to say I don't believe in him yet, but I'm not sure I'm going to draft him where he's going to be drafted. That's, where I'm at with Debo right now. But it's one of those players. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll both be wrong. But
I mean, he had 8 rushing touchdowns.
I know that's hard to recreate that, right? And that was with a lot of running backs, a lot of injuries to running backs. I guess all the running backs in San Francisco always get hurt, so that could always happen.
Yeah,
but
he had how many? I think 4. He had 4 games where he had receiving yards of over 150 yards. I remember watching a couple of them. And you can't, some guys are unstoppable going deep, right? You're like Randy Moss is always going to be able to do that. Whatever. Tyreek, you're trying to contain him. This one, it would be like he caught it, 2 guys collide, and he runs by him for like an 80-yard touchdown. And you're like, right, that's amazing. But how many times can that happen?
How can you do
it happened multiple times during the year. And you're kind of like, that's not normal. Not to mention, you have to rely on like a second-year quarterback to make the good reads and everything of that. And they've already seen him do it. So I do wonder if they would play this offense completely differently every defense. And I say that, and you're probably like, hey, he was doing it all year. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Like why weren't you throwing the defense at him? I do not know why. He made it work. I can't wrap my head around this happening 2 years in a row for this particular guy.
I'm not as far as I'm not as much off Debo, but I'm just not confident either. I'm with you there. So my pick is actually my pick of surprise, but it's the guy I don't believe in. It's Cordero Patterson. I don't believe in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't. And he was really good for most of the year. But let me talk about these last 4 games. And starting in week 15, 11 carries for 18 yards, 2 catches for 5. Week 16, 7 carries for 14 yards. He did get a touchdown, but he had 1 catch for -1. Week 17, 9 carries, 28 yards. 2 catches for 24. And then the final week, 4 carries for 11 yards with 1 catch for 1 yard. Early on in the year, he was getting receptions, and he had games of 58, 82, 60, 126 yards. And that's what was getting him there. And then after that 126 yard game receiving he had in week 9, he never got above 27 yards again. He never had more than 3 catches again. And that was just one time he had 3 catches. He had more carries for a stretch, but even then he wasn't necessarily like dominating with that work. It was great for this stretch. And then at the end, it kind of tailed off. So even though he was a big surprise to me, and he ended up with only a 4.0 yards per carry. Not huge either. And I think he's going to be overdrafted. He's going to be 31 years old? Yeah, he's going to be 31. A guy who's never done this before. I kind of feel like it's very fluky. I'm just not expecting it next year for Cordero. I don't know who else is going to be there, but I'm not expecting Cordero to do what he did this year and become a top 10 running back. You won't see him on any of my teams.
No, I'm with you. He will be drafted too high, and it was once again, I don't want to take anything away from these guys because they did such a good job.
Great year.
Yeah, but a lot of fluky things had to happen. Will Ridley be back? Pitts, obviously another year. They're not going to have Mike Davis as the number 1 running back. I can't imagine them coming into the year saying Cordero Patterson is our guy. I think they'll end up being, hey, he's the guy we can put in, he's running back number 2. We can put him in the game. And he's also going to be like wide receiver number 3. And we'll just use him however we need him. And they'll probably hurt him because there's no one else on this team to give the ball to. Yep. So I agree with you. Wonderful to watch him show out, but
yeah, Nah. All right, there we go. There's the awards. That wraps up 2021. We'll be take a couple months off, enjoy the playoffs. That's about all you'll have. There isn't any fantasy to talk about. Nothing's going to change. We're not going to know any new information, but we'll be back probably right before free agents, probably like maybe a couple days before free agents even get going. We'll have a show, preview it a little bit, who's a free agent, where we think they're going, and then we'll start talking about the free agents. And then after that, it goes right into the draft. So be all kinds of stuff at that point. And then, football season doesn't really end too much. This is like a 2-month break where fantasy ends. But after that, you can still play some daily fantasy if you want. Maybe I'll have some daily fantasy picks on Instagram for you. Check that out. I haven't been actually too good the last couple of weeks. If you saw my daily fantasy picks this weekend, they were pretty bad. But week 18's tough. What do you do? All right, that'll do it. Talk to you guys, I guess, in a couple months. Talk to you then.